All right, everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a extraordinary morning and that you are filled with gratitude, heartfelt thanks, and that you are truly having the life that you desire. You know, so much of gratitude is about going from within. And I have a deep belief that so much of the sources of your strength, what your answers are, the things that we want to be inspired by, revealed to, and the things that are there for us are so often from within. So I hope that you're taking the time to be grateful. I hope you're taking the time to really participate at every level. So with that, I want to welcome Gavin Lindeen. You know, I met Gavin about 4 years ago, just a few weeks ago. So 4 weeks and I guess I say 4 years and just a few weeks. But he is an extraordinary man. I want to say young man because I've got him by a few years. But he is a great individual. He's a great golfer, right? He's a great golfer. He's a great agent. He works out of our Simi Valley offices in Southern California. And what I love about him is when a lot of crazy things were going on for a little short period of time, about a year and a half ago, I remember in a moment of his interview, or not interview, sorry, as I'm interviewing him, we'll probably get into this just a little bit, but I remember sitting at his desk. And I remember he stood up and he said, he put out his hand and he said, "Man, I'm willing to follow you." And I've always been very grateful for that. It created this deep brotherhood between the two of us in regards to just a lot of the things that were going on in the California market with the organization. And it meant the world to me personally and created this bond, this friendship, and this brotherhood that I'll forever be grateful for. So with that, and I've also seen Gavin, you know, every single year almost double his business since the day that we started working together, and he can share more of that story. But what I love is where he's heading and where he's going. So with that, Mr. Gavin Lindeen. And Gavin, I think I can hear you on the line. I'm going to get yours up on my screen because I'm using my phone today. But let me just get you up here on my screen.
Nice. You got me. We never know how these Zoom meetings go. All we know about these Zoom meetings is nobody wears pants. That's all we know.
We hope that they are. We hope they are. So if the camera was to fall. All right. So as I'm getting there you are. All right. So hey, thanks for spending time with us. I just had to get you up on my screen. So just give us a little bit of history. So how long have you been in the business? We'll talk.
It has been 12 years now. Yeah.
Okay, so 12 years. You come from a really strong real estate family, that is for certain, right? So talk about your history from the standpoint of those that you've emulated, and then also talk just a little bit about your business and what you're doing today.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't have any family that's in real estate. You know, none of my family sold real estate for any point in time. You know, only my uncle, my mother, my grandparents, my cousins. I mean, pretty much everybody right? around me in my life has sold real estate. And for me, naturally, the kind of person that I am, it really pushed me away from it at my early age. You know, all my conversations at dinner and whatever that might be were always real estate related. So it really pushed me away at an early age. I got my license at 18, was working a full-time job, starting real estate, and sold real estate for about 3 years or so. And with a company I was working with previously in another sales division, I kind of got the Godfather offer at 20 years old. I said, "You're going to pay me what to do what?" And, you know, it was a crazy salary with crazy bonuses. And I got out of the real estate market. It was in the aerospace sales industry, selling adhesives, this and that for aerospace and defense companies. And about 3 or 4 years, I was probably 4 or 5 years into that, the bottom fell out of the business and I was unemployed. And I had no direction, didn't know what I wanted to do or what I was getting into in my life. And it kind of came back to me on what really drives me and finding your passion, which I think is extremely important, regardless of what avenue in life you're in. And I've realized my passion really is helping people. You know, in a previous life, I was what I like to call a traveling glue salesman. And I didn't have any drive. Although, you know, it was about making money and I was making great, supporting the family and this and that, but it only goes so far. And getting back into real estate allows me to, what I see my purpose in is helping people solve their problems and take the next step in their life and in their journey. So, it really grounded me from the sense that I was able to love what I did every day. And then by getting back into the real estate industry at that point, it wasn't because, oh, the whole family did it and this is what you're supposed to do. It was because it was what I was supposed to do, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Right. You did it because you chose to, which is really an interesting. So many of us live our lives based on what everyone else thinks we should be doing. And it sounds to me like you're doing what you're doing because you desired to do it and because you wanted to do it, which is great. Hey, so talk just a little bit about the journey. One of my favorite stories is when you and I first started talking about the word mindset. And obviously you'd been around real estate. You've seen lots of great real estate agents. You've seen lots of deals occur. You've seen things happen in this business at a high level. And so from that standpoint, talk just a little about the time when you first really started connecting the dots between real estate and mindset, and real estate and working from the mental game and the emotional game and moving through that. Talk just a little bit about that for a moment.
It's just such a turning point in my life and my career in general. I'm not sure whether the first time I heard it was with you or at a Mike Ferry event, which I was going to at the time, but it really came down to you really only have control of one thing in your life. And that is your mindset and how it affects you. And I remember specifically, very distinctly, the conversation that we had. And when we were going over the things you can control, the things you can't control, one of the biggest sayings that I have in my life is, I tell all my clients and friends, family, you can only worry about the things within your control. And at that point, I realized the only thing we really can control is our mindset and how we can strengthen it and what we allow to affect that. So by doing the morning ascent and by doing the gratitude and just being able to control what's in your mind, because we get bombarded and beat every single day, whether it's the news, media, our clients, whatever it is, you have to be able to have the mental strength and fortitude to be able to block those things out that aren't going to benefit you or benefit your clients moving forward in a positive way. And the conversation with you revolved around, I said, George, in all the years that I have been involved in real estate and sales, because I've done different sales in my life and sales trainings, this and that, I'd never, ever heard that brought up, the term mindset. And it was just like a wow moment. Like, I shouldn't be watching the news every day. I shouldn't have my phone with me for the first hour of every day. I shouldn't be looking at these emails or whatever the news is bombarding with us. Because it's going to happen. No matter what, it happens in our life. We can't, if any of us can't lie to ourselves and say we're not going to see it. We get the notifications on our phone or the news or somebody says something, we're going to see it. But how do you let it affect you? And I think specifically very important, like the first hour of your day is so crucial to how you start and how you kind of go along your path any given day. I think it's just
absolutely. Well, you start looking at the bookends, right? You can I love when I've heard this years ago, and I think it's in Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, and he talks about the bookends. Talks about you can control the way you start your day, you can control the way you end your day. You may not be able to control everything in between, but boy, if you could just control those two angles of it. And I've said this many times. Sometimes we think that gratitude, mindset, getting to a place of our center, meditations, prayer, right? Deep reading, critical thinking. All of these things aren't just things that have to be done during the morning time. There are things that also can be done in the evening. So many of our lives, right, are built around routines, which are oftentimes, the word routine to me just blares out to me, boring, rigid, no heart, no soul. It's just my routine. Well, man, I have a routine for the way I bathe. I have a routine the way I do my hair. I have a routine. I mean, those are pretty boring things. But what I'm talking about is the rituals of our lives, right? The things that are sacred to our lives, the way in which we move through gratitude, the way in which we move through finding our center, the way in which we read and grow mentally, emotionally. the way that we find ourselves from within, connecting to our source and to ourselves. Those are very, very sacred moments. And to put them out as a routine seems very, very small in regards to how important they are. So I think you're so right in the fact of, I love what you're saying. You're saying for you is stay away from your phone for the first hour of the day. And right, that's not a new concept, but man, to do that, that. Like I recently heard an interview and someone was saying how hard that is for them. But in the end of the day, how important it is for them also, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, to take it even a step further, the staying away from the phone thing has been really tough, especially during prospecting sessions. And during one of our coaching sessions, you had mentioned, you said, Gavin, once you realize that deals aren't going to fall apart and the earth's not going to burn down in the next hour,
right,
you don't need to answer that email. You don't need to answer that text, because people understand that as soon as you get back to them, it will be with valuable information and you will have the answer that they're looking for. But if you allow people and clients specifically to bombard you all of the time and know that no matter what, you're going to answer right away, they will take advantage of that and you lose your freedom.
And that's the new expectation, right? I mean, here's the statement I've always made, Gavin. I think this is a really great example of this. I always, first of all, if you're this annoying person in a movie theater who's constantly checking their phone and you see the lit up screen, shame on you, then stay at home and don't go to a movie. But if you go to a movie, you are not checking your phone every few minutes for 2 straight hours in the movie theater. And I always ask this to agents, I'm like, if you can't put your phone away for 2 hours of prospecting, when you can put it away for 2 hours in a theater, and when you get out of the theater, what do? When you tell a client, you tell a friend, you say, oh, I was in a movie. How about you say, oh, hey, I was prospecting, trying to find someone who wanted to buy your home. Or I was prospecting to see if I could find the right home for you. There's a mindset that somehow we've got to be just on that phone constant and never setting it aside. We get consumed with social media. We get consumed with the news. We get consumed with the dopamine fix that is just immediately the moment we wake up and throughout the day. And I'm just challenging everybody. And I think you're spot on, by the way. I'm not suggesting it's easy for me. I'm not suggesting it's easy for anyone, especially for the business that we're in. But man, what a liberation if you could do that in a consistent fashion. And you put even limitations, maybe even into your voicemails that talked about the fact of when you will and will not be able to call back. And I think it's important that we recognize how important it is that we take some level of control for our lives. Otherwise, we lose our own self, we lose our own sanity. So great point. Great point. So Gavin, talk about today's market for you. I mean, I know this last week as we were having a conversation, you've had a great last 7 to 10 days. But talk about the pandemic, not necessarily the pandemic itself, but how you're moving through that, how you're getting better through that, how you're improving through that, your mindset, your actions. How are you approaching the pandemic?
Yeah, the funny part for me is before this, I was always kind of trying to generate new business, whether it be a door knock, whether it be cold calling, those avenues that I was always trying to generate new business. And I always habitually had neglected my sphere. Just very honest and forthright. And that is the gold mine of our business. Those people that know you, that trust you, that you've done business with. But I was always just so geared. I gotta go get that new thing. I gotta go get the new thing, the shiny new toy. So for me, not being able to do those things, like, yeah, you can cold call, but let's be honest, nobody wants to hear from you right now, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion. So you're obviously not door knocking. Ain't nobody answering the door for you unless you got an Amazon package, right? So for me, it really drove me back to my sphere, contacting them about the forbearance and forgiveness and just giving them that information that they needed, that there was so much information out there that nobody knew what to believe. So I was able to generate a really nice spreadsheet, point by point, bulletin points, followed up with a phone call, emailed it out to them, and it was very helpful, and the response I got from that was phenomenal. So by leaning back onto my sphere as this whole thing started and kind of was easing as far as our, being deemed an essential business is concerned, I have been absolutely inundated with work, which has been fantastic for me. People are grateful. People understand the value that we're bringing, and people want answers. You know, the buyers in the market right now are asking the question, well, what's going to happen with prices? And what's going to happen going forward in the market? And this is just my go-to. I tell them, you know, look, if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be in this business. Trust me. I would have had the winning lottery numbers years ago. I'd be, you know, well out and gone. But what I know is that there's going to be more properties coming on the market, and I know that interest rates are low. Do I know if more buyers are going to come into the market as soon as this is kind of over? I can't predict that. There's no way for me to tell. But if you find the right place where you know interest rates are low, then why not make the jump? And same thing for sellers on the other side. You know, there's a little bit more inventory coming onto the market. Are we going to see more spring and summer? That's just natural. That's what we always see. So why not get ahead of the curve? Those conversations that I've had, I put one new listing on the market on Friday, put one in escrow last week, got 2 new listings coming up over the next 2 days. So it's been a very busy time for me, as long as you have what I like to call the open, honest, and candid communications with your clients, which I think is really the cornerstone of our business that I learned from a mentor years ago. He said, look, the only thing that people appreciate is that open, honest, and candid communication. Don't BS people, they see right through it. So if you are doing that and you're giving people the right answers, and understanding that when they ask you a question, you don't have to have the answer, but you say, look, let me follow up on that and get back to them. You got to be able to be that key, that king of follow-up is what I like to call it. If you do that, people appreciate it. And my business has exploded during this last, 2, 3, 4 weeks. As I've been contacting my sphere aggressively during the beginning of this, providing support, providing answers, just asking them how you're doing.
Right.
How are you? How is everything? How is your family? And just the caring. It's been amazing.
Well, no, you're spot on, man. I wrote down these 3 things. I wrote down, just as you just ended with that, I wrote down, how are you, your family, your job? How's your health? Number 2, how can I help you? I had a great conversation yesterday with Betty Fernandez, who is, again, just lighting things up, doing incredible things. And I was talking to her and she said, what in the world can I do? Or she probably can correct me, but what in the world can I do to help you? Basically, anything I could do from any level. Doesn't matter whether it's, to your point, a forbearance and helping them through that, whether it's be a real estate, because no matter what, all conversations lead back at some level to real estate, right? So just simply asking the question, how can I help in any way, shape, or form is going to move things in such a powerful way. And then I wrote down the 3rd thing, bring value. And I love what you just talked about. You said, talk about forbearances. Maybe you could talk about even unemployment. Maybe you could talk about the rates. You could talk about the mortgage programs. You can talk about the values. You can talk about the inventory. There's so many things to bring that are valuable that I cannot express enough how important that is. And then that was also very important. You said, be real, right? I wrote down the words, be sincere, authentic, and honest. Sincere, authentic, and honest. Because look, people know whether you're telling the truth or not. They can sniff, like a dog can sniff beer, a person can sniff whether someone's honest and truthful, sincere, and authentic. So that comes from a declaration and a real insight to our psyche and to our emotion is to, do we really care about people? And do we care about their well-being? And this is a very difficult business to do if we don't have a deep sense of caring, love, and appreciation for other people. I cannot express that enough. And it is hard to fake that. And to your point, people will see right through it immediately when they know you're just trying to get something. If we can move from a place of how can I help versus what do I get, man, life is a whole different experience. And this business becomes a very beautiful business.
Can I touch on that just for a second?
Yeah, please.
So there was a listing that I'm going to be putting on the market this probably tomorrow, whatever, Thursday. And I was talking to the client. It was an expired listing or canceled listing, I forget. talking to a client, never met the guy before. He's interviewing multiple agents, just talking to him on the phone. And I asked two questions. What are your expectations and how does that look? By asking those two, I didn't even go into marketing. I didn't go into what I'm going to do. I didn't go into any of the normal things that I do in a listing presentation, which, let's be honest, listing presentations right now are a little different anyway. But I asked those two questions. What are your expectations and what does that look like? And he talked for probably 25 minutes. And after he finished, like, right, 2 ears, 1 mouth, right, use them. He says, well, so is there anything else? I said, no, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you want me to do for you?
I love it.
He started talking for another 10 minutes. And after the conversation ends, I said, you know, I appreciate what you're telling me. And then I summarized all these bullet points that I had written down as he was talking. So these are all of the important things to you. He said, yes. I said, you know, do you have any other questions for me that I might be able to answer? He says, no, I think we've gone over everything. He didn't ask me any questions.
They rarely do.
I asked him the questions. And I said, you know, and I appreciate it. I know you're going to be interviewing another agent. Is that still going to be the case? No, I'm not. You're the guy.
I love that. I love that,
Great.
Gavin.
So can I send over the contract to have that signed?
So dude, so spot on. So 3 things, right? I've said this, that most presentations, if all you did is, I want to know more about what your needs, expectations, and wants are. Number 2, what do you expect from me as your agent? Number 3, what do you expect from the company? In most cases, you may never have to say almost a single word. And to your point, then just simply asking, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? And with that being said, what I hear you saying is this, and then still you're going to end it with, is there anything else? They're going to look at you, you know this, and go, huh, no, great. You ready to get started? Or to your point, what a great little question. Are you still intending on interviewing any more agents? Nope, great. Then I presume it was kind of somewhere like this, right? Let's get started. Guys, this is gold. I hope that you're using these things, because so often we want to get on these Zoom calls, right? So often we want to get on these presentations we're giving right now, and we want to just throw up and keep talking and keep talking. You want to take all the pressure off of you? Just simply ask people, hey, share with me, what do you expect from me? Help me understand what's most important to you. Help me know, share with me what it is you'd like to see me do. What do you expect from the company you choose? What do you expect from this experience? What do you want to see happen? What does it look like? I mean, this is how you take all the pressure off of you and you have a real conversation. So I love that, Gavin. That is outstanding. Hey, let me throw this in here, because I think it's important with this type of conversation. When I'm talking, because there's lots of people still taking lots of business and from for sale by owners, expired listings, and frankly, just listed, just sold. And I think the same principles are in there. And this is the one question I've appreciated from a scripting standpoint. And that is this: hey, if I could show you some benefits of getting your home sold today or now during all the crisis, would you be interested? If I could share with you some benefits of working through the market the way that it is today, would you want to know more about that? That simple question, if I could share with you, show you any level of a benefit for you doing things now, has been really a turning point for many agents in converting that time frame. Mm-hmm. And look, the question ultimately right now for you, and you know this, Gavin, we all know this, it really is an issue of what are the risks that we are willing to take as a homeowner who's trying to sell and a home seller who's wanting to buy. The risks of rates going up, the risks of more inventory, the risks of, yes, the market going down if you're selling. It's a statement, it's a conversation about how much risk. And I always remember Vicente a few weeks ago who said this. He said, look, you've lived in this home for 27 years. You've earned hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. How much risk are you really willing to take? Right? I mean, maybe the market does go up a hair more. Maybe it goes down a hair more. How much risk are you really willing to take? And the people put the home on the market. And I think he already had it sold within just a few days, because again, they had to evaluate logically, well, what's the risk I'm really willing to take today? It's a powerful question as you're working with clientele. What's the risk that you're willing to take? Okay. All right. So with that we've got about 5 minutes. What counsel would you give today to an agent that is struggling? What counsel would you give to an agent that is really just really mentally, emotionally distraught? And I've seen a lot of agents, especially on the California side, as we're having conversations, kind of rising above all of the chaos, rising above the sadness, the grieving process and everything that's happened, and rising out of the fear. But what would you tell someone who's still in that space or trying to just get to that next level?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. The first one is definitely mindset. You have to be able to control how you're reacting to certain things. I always say, this, George, I say life is 10% what happens to us. Things are going to happen to us. Life happens. But life is 10% that and 90% how we react to and overcome those objects, whatever that might look like in your life. I think that's crucially important. We can't control what happens to us. Life's going to happen. Things are going to come at us all the time. Boom, boom, boom. But how are we going to react to it? That's the most important part of it.
That determines the ultimate outcome, right?
And number two is, I said it earlier, you can only worry about things that are within your control. And things that are within your control are really your mindset and how you react to certain things. Those are the only things, in my opinion, in our life that we can control. So we have to stay vigilant in controlling that mindset. I think as you're still struggling, the biggest thing to me, whenever I'm struggling in business, is make those easy phone calls. Make those calls to those people that know you, that trust you, and you can just have a positive, enjoying phone call with those people that you're going to leave with a smile on your face. And then maybe you move towards the more difficult calls with that lead that you haven't followed up with in a few weeks, or that person that you've been meaning to call, or whether it be a just listed, just sold, for sale by owner, any of those things. Those are the calls that I tend to make later in my sessions. So if I'm in a prospecting session, I'm always going to lead it with like a warm lead or with a previous client or sphere of influence, whatever that looks like, so that it starts out on a positive note. Because what's the hardest thing in any prospecting session, George? Picking up and making that first call.
I was going to say, making the first call, right? Making that first call.
Making that first call. It's tough. And trust me, I think if you've been prospecting for any amount of time, I have sat there, looked at my phone, like, I do not want to make this phone call right now.
Right.
It's just like the last thing that you want to do. But at the end of the day, that's where you make money. And for me, that's how I can help people. That's my biggest passion, is being able to help people. And what I see in this business is agents who are taking advantage of clients, and clients who have been taken advantage of by agents in the past, who are lying to them, deceiving them for their own personal gain. And for me, that's where I play. That's my arena, is finding these people, and my drive, my prospecting is trying to get in the middle of that relationship that would previously have existed if I didn't interject. So being able to interject myself in between an agent that was going to take advantage of a client and being able to provide that service to that client in a positive way, that's where I find my drive and my passion, and allows me to kind of keep going through all the no's and the hang-ups and whatever that looks like during our prospecting sessions.
Right.
So you got to find your passion and what drives you. If you don't find that, you're not going to do it, and it's going to be hard to overcome. But if you know why you're here, and go back to your gratitude that you had written down earlier and the reasons why we're doing this business, that's what needs to drive you. You have to look at that. If you're not doing it every day, but you did it once this week, just go back and look at it and read it, and why you're doing what you're doing and what you're grateful for, and how and what that looks like.
So I think you're spot on. Whenever there's a disconnect to our activity levels, a disconnect to our personal disciplines, a disconnect to making the first call, a disconnect to prospecting, the resistance that can happen in all of these activities, whether it's knocking on a door, which we hope to be able to do in the months to come, whether it be the calls that we need to make to our sphere and to any other source of business, from internet leads to for sale by owners to expireds, just listed, just sold, people desperate to do business, desperate to have you make calls. But the reality is none of that happens if there's a deep disconnect to what it is that we're doing and the reasons why we're doing it. The why, the purpose, the desire, the dream, whatever you want to define it as, if you're disconnected to that and cannot connect the dots to your purpose, to the activity level, you will then give every reason, every excuse as to why you don't do what you do. But if you can connect the dots to your purpose, to your desires, and to your dreams, and that the connection to that is making a phone call, the connection to that is calling your sphere, the connection to that is doing the things that most agents are unwilling to do because they live in their fear, not in their deep desires to win the game of life. So again, get connected to that thing. That's great. Hey, so answer this last question, then we'll wrap up. So what have you learned over the last 6 weeks? Because here we are between 5 and 6 weeks with this thing going full bore. Last 6 weeks, what has Gavin Lindeen learned in these last 6 weeks? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about the market? Anything you've learned? Just give us a takeaway of what you've learned.
You know, the funny thing is that most people have felt so disconnected from the world and their family and these things like that. I've almost felt more connected than ever because I've made more time for those Zoom calls or those FaceTimes, whether it be with family or friends or clients. You care so much, at least I do. I care so much about what's going on in those people's lives right now because we've got nothing else. Like, we're at home, like, we have a little bit of business, we're showing a little property here and there, maybe, hopefully, but you've had nothing else over those first 45 days other than, like, find out what's going on in people's lives.
Right.
And that, to me, has been the biggest thing. Like, I want to know what's going on. I truly want to know if you're doing okay and how's the family and, you know, is everything going all right with you? And that, I think, you need to take, at least I do, I need to take every day moving forward. You know, we become disconnected with those types of things because we've got a million things going on in our life. You know, I don't have kids, but you have to pick up the kids from school, or you have to go get the groceries or check on the dog or this and that. But if you're home, you're already worried that you already have all those things handled. So what's going on with those people that you care about and that care about you and trust you? So I think just connecting would be my biggest takeaway from this whole thing.
Love that. And you know, I've been sharing, and man, there's almost never enough of it, but that is to over communicate. Whether that be picking up the phone, whether that be sending just a 30, 60-second video. You know, hey, Gavin, George Morris, just want to check in with you. Want to make sure you're great, your family's great, your health is great. Hope things are well with your employment and your business or your job. And just want you to know I'm thinking of you, and just know I'm here to help you in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't even have to be real estate related. Just know I'm here. Good to hear. I hope to hear from you soon. Let me know you got this, and we'll talk soon. Guys, it is right now inexcusable to not connect to our people. And I mean, you are spot on, Gavin, with what you're talking about. And I could not agree with you more. And that is also the appreciation of that, is there's such a deeper connection with people if we will do what's necessary to connect. It doesn't happen magically. We have to pick up a phone, send a video, do something that connects us to those people. So it's awesome, brother. All right. Any last thoughts for us?
You know, just keep on going, keep on striving. This is what we do. Find that passion, find your drive, and just like you said, connect those dots. I love that. I absolutely love that, because that's really what I try to do every day. And I've never put it in those certain terms, but it's, like I said, trying to interject in between that agent that might take advantage of them and this. What's the dot that I need to connect? I need to find that number. I need to knock on that door. I need to connect with that person so that I can help them, which is what my passion is.
Right. And here's the same statement, Gavin, is that if you can connect the dots to what people really desire, when you start to point, what do you expect? What do you really want? What do you really need? And you get the emotion behind what they're doing, and they're able to connect the dots, that signing a contract with you or any great agent in our company is the difference between winning or losing. It's the difference between achieving their dreams or not, and that you are the gateway to the possibilities of them living their dreams, being in the right home, having their kids at the right school, being able to have the right neighborhood, whatever that is for them, what is emotional to them, and connecting those dots, boom, they sign. So awesome stuff, brother. So
Yeah.
thank you so very, very, very much.